Hello, this is Brian Wilford, Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and this is MP Report. Today I have something a little different I'd like to present, and that is my legislative assistant, Nick Koyanka, who is going to talk to you a little bit about what he does, the kind of policy letters that we respond to. Generally, one of the most important things in our Ottawa office is responding to issues that you present to us, whether they are government bills, or they're private members' bills. Private members' bills are always C dash, and then there are 3 numbers, versus a government bill, which is C dash and 2 numbers. So Nick, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and some of the kind of issues that you respond to from time to time for the constituents of Richmond Hill?
Yes, well, thank you very much. As you said, I am a legislative assistant here, and as such, most of my responsibilities are researching pieces of legislation as well as constituent issues. So when a member of the constituency, somebody like you, writes into our office, Mr. Wilford here will take a look at the letter first and examine it, and then give me some direction as to whether or not he requires any research on the issue. Oftentimes, of course, he doesn't, because he has a wide breadth of knowledge to begin with, but occasionally there is something that somebody writes in on that he isn't as much of an expert on. In those cases, I am responsible, along with another colleague, for researching the issue at his direction to ensure that he becomes an expert on that subject rather quickly. Additionally, as I said, I also research issues pertaining to pieces of legislation that come up. So currently in Mr. Wilford's responsibilities for the Defense Committee, we've been researching Bill C-41 over the last several months, which is an attempt to reform the military justice system. In addition to that, I also research other pieces of legislation with regards to foreign affairs issues, as well as industry and community issues, as well as a host of other issues in various files. In addition to that, I also help to respond to constituent issues, as I mentioned before, and I've often spoken to a number of constituents on the phone in this regard at Mr. Wilford's request, of course.
And Nick mentioned that we have another colleague, Rue, who also deals with policy issues, but we've divided the office up into areas of responsibility. So for example, Nick, give us a couple of the subject areas that you would deal with specifically.
Yep, some of the subject areas that I look at include foreign affairs, public safety, national defense. Those are, I guess, primarily the big 3 that I get a lot of work on, as well as issues pertaining to crown corporations and regulatory bodies like the CRTC, which we've received a large number of correspondence on in recent weeks, as well as I'm responsible for justice issues as well.
So it's important to understand that in order to respond effectively, we have divided up the labor so that, in fact, in 2 policy people are dealing with issues that you comment on. And often we get private members' legislation inquiries. And private members' legislation is proposed by anyone who is not in the cabinet. So in other words, cabinet bills or government bills are bills that are, for example, C-32 on copyright is proposed by the Government of Canada. But someone could propose a private member's bill where they would have a bill drawn up, they put it before the House of Commons, and because so few of them are ever really dealt with, there is an order, a lottery essentially. And those private members' bills, which people then find out about, will then contact our office, ask where do we stand on this issue or clarification on an issue, and therefore we provide that information. But many of them don't necessarily get adopted, but I can think of some examples. Jean Chrétien, when he was a member of Parliament and not in the cabinet, was able to get Trans-Canada Airlines changed to what we know today as Air Canada. A colleague of mine in a previous Parliament had Vimy Ridge Day proclaimed for national recognition. So there are those kind of things that are proposed by members of Parliament outside of cabinet, outside of government. This week in Parliament, we continue to debate issues, including C-59. C-59 deals with white-collar crime. Unfortunately, this legislation would penalize